Hey y'all, I'm Cece, and today I'm here to talk about dragons. It's been a minute since I've done a little reading vlog. Well, I have filmed a couple of reading vlogs, but you haven't seen them yet. They're still in editing. But truly, it has been a minute since I've filmed a vlog and talked to you all in this kind of setting. This vlog is for a very special purpose, because I am reading some new YA fantasy, which I am going to show off for you now. In this vlog, I am going to be reading Fireborn by Rosaria Munda, which is a YA fantasy, and it's a dragon book. I will tell you more about the plot in just a little bit. I also have with me the sequel, Flamefall. This book is on shelves now, and I will be talking more about it as we get more into Fireborn as the first book in the series. I wanted to let you know that this vlog is sponsored by Penguin Teen. I already had an arc of Fireborn that I was sent when it was originally released, and now I am so excited because I have the new designed paperback, voila, as well as the new hardcover sequel, so it'll be a matching set. Yay! Here, I'm gonna set this camera down while I describe the plot of this book to you. Alright, let's try this. Fireborn is about two friends from very different walks of life who wound up being raised together in the same orphanage. So, despite the fact that they have very different backstories and lives, this has kind of formed an essential friendship. We have Annie and we have Lee. And these two were only kids when this revolution happened and completely changed the way that their world works. So now everyone has the chance to rise into power in the new regime and hopefully become a member of the governing class of dragon riders. So we have Annie, and Annie's family was killed by dragon fire. And then Lee was an aristocrat. He belonged to one of the families who used to rule the city before this revolution happened. So now we have Annie and we have Lee, and they are, you know, they're rising stars in the new regime. They're both training to be dragon riders, and there's kind of a rivalry going now as they're competing for similar roles. And then some people from the old, like, power structure start to appear in the city, which tests loyalties between Annie and Lee, where they have to decide if they're going to be loyal to each other, to their backgrounds, or to the positions that they've put themselves in now. That is what I know about the description based on the back. I'm going to be reading this all day, and then I am going to hopefully be jumping into Flamefall and reading as much as I can. The book is out now, and we're gonna see how this goes, so I think that's all I have for an intro for you. It's very essential to me that you all know going forward, I was the biggest dragon girl in my youth. Like, that was my ultimate thing. I loved dragons. The book that I tried to write when I was a kid, you know, I feel like at some point so many kids try to write their own book. The one I wrote was about dragons. Every book I ever wrote had dragons in it, so we'll talk more about that. We'll do some dragon stuff. I'll let you know what I think about this. I'll give you some more ideas and concepts about the plot. I'll tell you what I think about the book. That's what you're in for. I am going to let my hair dry a little bit because I just got out of the shower. I am going to grab a beverage, and then I'm going to get into bed, get cozy, and start reading Fireborn. Show you the fact that it got a little cold, so I had to go into like ultra cozy mode. This is like my favorite sweater, my favorite cardigan in the world. I mean, like, luxury comfort level. All clothes should just fit like this. Don't perceive me. Don't perceive the way I'm shaped. Hello. I have an update. I also, just keep wanting to fall asleep lately. It's probably because I'm in my bed, but you know. So, I'm on a page like 84. Have to stop and say something because this is gonna be a spoiler-free reading vlog, but something right away that I have to say is this incorporates one of my favorite dragon tropes, which is dragon riders having like emotional mind bonds with their dragons. I love it. I've talked in the past about the fact that I love the concept of like mind sharing narratives and what that means. Like, what does it mean to share thoughts with like a dragon, with another person, with a group of people? That's why I'm interested in like Sense8 or Otherbound by Corinne Duevis, or Aragon by Christopher Paolini. This one is specifically a dragon mind-sharing book. Do I have others? A Court of Mist and Fury has that element. It's a thing there. Middle Game by Sean and McGuire, also featured here. I know there are more, I just want to establish like it's one of my fave things, and I've read a lot of books that incorporate that, and I've watched shows that incorporate that, and I'm obsessed with it. So in this book there's a thing called spillover, and basically there's this low-level emotional bond that writers have with their dragons, and for the most part it's just very low level, but when the writers get too emotional it like opens up that bond and there's spillover. Basically there's less and less of a difference between the writer and the dragon, and all of the human emotions reverberate within the dragon's context, which just amplifies everything. So it's a whole situation. But I love it. Oh, while I was sitting here talking, I looked over at my bookshelf and remembered another book that I have that features mind sharing. Jesus Christ. Whole Metal Girls. Whoa, I just caught on Porthos. This is Porthos, my Pothos. I just completely almost took him out. But Whole Metal Girls by Emily Skrutsky also features that mind-sharing element. And to a certain level, The Deep by Rivers Solomon. I think you could kind of put on this list, but not as much as the other stuff I've named. Now I'm really sitting here like, what else am I forgetting? Like, nah, I'm fine. I haven't forgotten any of these. Yes, I did. One of the original, like, sources of me liking this trope, The Host by Stephanie Meyer. This one's a little different because it's not just mind sharing. They're sharing a mind because they're sharing a body. But I think that was one of my very first exposures to that trope. So, have to bring that up. But I'm liking this book so far. Like, it's been a while since I've really gotten into a YA fantasy. Like, I've had a hard time getting really into YA fantasy series in particular. This one starts off so quickly, and I think my favorite thing right now is tension. Like, one of the things I have a hard time with YA fantasy is, like, the characters just seem sort of copy-paste fill-in characters. I don't really understand their vibe, and I don't feel like the relationships between them are legit. It just feels forced. And like, nah. The tension for all of these different characters is so apparent so immediately. Like, initially I was getting the vibes of How to Train Your Dragon, and it kind of is that. Like, these kids have been chosen, they're gonna be trained, they're gonna be dragon riders, and there's that kind of camaraderie while also competing. It has that element, but I think there are other things that I think I'm just comparing it to How to Train Your Dragon because dragons. You know, I'm gonna read more now. Maybe I'll dance around a little bit first so that I can get some blood pumping and I don't want to fall asleep. I'm just a very tired person. It happens. Goodness. I felt like it was time to update you again. So, I've still been busy reading. I'm on page like 150. 156 is the page I just finished. Okay, I have to say, like the reason I wanted to update you is, oh, do you like my like midnight caffeinated beverage? It's not midnight, it's 10 p.m., but we're cutting it close. We're getting there. Anyway, I wanted to mention like how well this book does the fantasy adventure story things, like moments. That's, you know, that's why I love fantasy movies. It's why I love, you know, Lord of the Rings and the Chronicles of Narnia. But like they're, you know, those classic fantasy story beats. Big building up to a conflict, celebrating after a victory, building up tension with people that you know who you don't get along with, moments where you realize the realities of war. Like, there are certain beats that happen in a fantasy series, and so often I have a hard time with fantasy books because I feel like they want to evoke the emotion of those key scenes and can't quite get it. And like, this book has me vibing, truly. Like, big celebration moments have really been getting me. There was a moment that I got a little emotional earlier. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, it was related to, Annie and a classmate. There was just an interaction that she had with a classmate, and it just made me a little emotional. My favorite sign when I'm reading a book is the moment when I first reach for my pencil. I have a little cup of, like, pens, pencils, highlighters, the works at the foot of my bed, and as soon as I know that a book is going to be good enough that I'm going to want to keep that copy, that's usually when I reach for my pencil. Like, I just like to be sure, because if I get to chapter 2 of a book and I know I'm not going to want to keep it, I don't want to have to go back through and erase pencil marks. It's just a thing. And so I have been underlining from early on. There are so many moments that I've been like, ooh, that's such a great line. I would love to see, like, I know I've been doing more digital art and lettering in my free time, as a way to unwind. You know, I've been teaching myself a new skill, and there have been a bunch of lines that I've specifically written down that I thought would be so much fun to do lettering projects on. I've been taking notes on, Notion. There we go. There's Notion, which is how I've been organizing everything this year, and I already have so many bullet pointed notes and quotes written down that I'm so excited for. Plus, oh my god, this book is hitting when it comes to big build up with characters who have an intense desire to prove themselves. That's one of my favorite things. I love a good build up for, like, the moment when a character who has been fighting for so long can prove that the people who haven't taken them seriously should be taking them seriously. It's like related to ambition and confidence and all that. And like, both of these characters, I love it so much. I love the energy of their ambition, where it differs. It's really fabulous. I'm curious about where the romances in this are going, because I thought going into it that I knew what the situation was going to be, but there's other potential love interest stuff happening, but not in a obnoxious love triangle-y way. Like, I'm really curious and interested where the fuck this book is going as regards romance. I'm not sure. I want to say that the group that Annie and Lee belong to, they're called Guardians. That is the name of the group of people who are, like, dragon riders. Their belief system is so similar to the Jedi. That's my first comparison point, which are already a reference to a variety of religions. Mostly the fact that Jedis are supposed to be, like, space monks, essentially. But a bunch of the same systems are in place here that I find really interesting, and I'm curious how they're gonna develop going forward. Oh my god, Leia. It's just my book. I'm just rifling pages. Look. It's fine. I don't know. I'm very curious about that, and there are some really good impossible decision situations coming up, which is another thing I'm really fond of. I love characters who are forced into an impossible decision situation because, like, that's so difficult, and I'm curious about the consequences of a no-win scenario, or, you know? Like, I like that kind of energy. She making biscuits. Very, very important. Okay, so this book is 432 pages long. I'm on page 224, so slightly over halfway. Oh my god. The way that this book has, like, longing. Oh, it works. It works for me. Because, like, I really want all of these pairings to work out. They're all so nice to each other. Even when they're being mean to each other, they're just supporting each other and loving each other, and that's... Oof. Oof. I am not ready to get into some of the big battle stuff later, because the emotional stuff is working really well, and I'm worried about the consequences of that. Honestly though, what does it say about me that this jar of spicy salsa from my uncle is like one of the best gifts I've ever gotten? Like, birthday-wise, he gets me. I want a jar of salsa so spicy it'll kill me. I think he gets me. And you know what's great? Is that one of my other uncles, for my birthday, sent me a box of chocolates. Like a box of Easter candy, because Easter chocolates are my fave. Which means one uncle gave me something really spicy, and the other uncle gave me the perfect way to soothe my mouth afterwards. I mean, big brain energy. I've decided one of the most brutal parts of this book remains how much everyone cares about each other. At least within, like, the Guardians, the group of people who are dragon riders. Even when they're fighting, even when they fundamentally disagree with, like, a part of their history, the political decisions that are being made, they'll challenge each other. They don't let each other pull shit, but they also have this, like, unerring care for one another that I love because, you know, of that found family realness. It's that, and it's the fact that they take each other's trauma so seriously. You know, they have all grown up part of a war. They were raised in wartime. Every single one of them has witnessed things that no one should ever witness. And so the fact that it has created this group of people who are still soldiers now, who are writing creatures that were once the very weapons that, like, burned their villages down. The fact that they have so much care with one another, that they treat each other with so much honesty, that they challenge one another and still understand the differences in trauma and know one another, like, needs space. I love it. I love it. Oh my god, I love it. There's a side character called Duck. Okay, Duck and Krissa are relevant side characters. They're also part of the Guard. And they're two of the most, like, relevant side characters, I would say. They're pretty central to the story. There are a few others who are pretty central. There's, like, Core, Power is a pretty central character and is one of the Guardians, and Rock. Rock is a pretty central part of the Guardians. These are all, for the most part, like, a bunch of them are nicknames within ranks. Like, Annie's real name isn't Annie, it's Antigone, so Duck's real name is not Duck, etc. But Duck, oh, see, they understand each other and what they need, so even if some of them want a different relationship with one another than they currently have, that's not enough to ruin the relationship that any of them has. Like, they can still be together as friends and they still know how to be soft with one another. I can't keep talking about this. I'm gonna get emotional. 60 pages left of Fireborn? And I have no idea. I have no idea where this is going, and I have no idea where this is going in regards to how it's gonna lead into a sequel. Like, I know to a certain extent, but I don't know how these characters are gonna change, and I just hit, like, a moment. Like, a huge shift. Everything is gonna change now. And I'm just curious how that total shift is going to affect the end of this book. And what that means for the sequel. I've decided to come out here to talk about Fireborn because it is very late and Brian and I share a bedroom wall, so I don't want to wake him up because it is very much 3:30 in the morning. But I finished Fireborn. What an emotional journey this was. What an unexpected emotional journey, really. Like I said a few times in this vlog, I've had a hard time the past couple of years getting into YA fantasy series. This was so good, and I think it's because of how political it was as a YA fantasy. Not only was it political, but it was also kind of a romance, you know? So it had a lot going for it. I like action scenes. I think they're big and exciting, and I especially love action scenes with dragons, but I'm more interested in the politics of the world and the politics of the characters. And that's way more what this gave me. And like Lee and Annie, oh my god, are such uniquely like traumatized characters. And they're both intimately and tragically aware of the tragedies that they have each been through and the ways that they will never be the same, but also the ways that they are the same now. Lee's family is explicitly the reason that Annie's family was killed. It's stated early on. And I think I was so worried because there's such a potential for that to be, you know, miscommunication, and what does that mean? And I think that there was a real power in the fact that basically Annie knows through the entire book who Lee really is and what that means for them, so she can kind of like work through that on her own. And that's such a good concept because it totally handles what the power imbalance of that truth means, you know? Annie gets to completely control her exposure level to Lee, and she gets to completely control what that means for her emotionally, how much she shares, how much she's willing to understand him, and like, fabulous. So I loved this. It made me emotional a couple of times, mostly with the romance stuff. The romance stuff, it worked so well because it wasn't just romance. Earnestly talking through the realities of wartime, what that means for the people making decisions, and what that means for the people making those decisions if they know directly what happens to the lower class in times of war. You know, what happens when war orphans are faced with decisions of war. And I kept drawing comparisons between this and the Poppy War because of it. You know, this concept of a war orphan, magic, and political war. Like, it's all very similar. And the Poppy War is obviously, it's an adult novel versus a YA novel, so there are going to be, you know, significant differences there, and I think the romance differences are pretty distinct in the Poppy War as well. Like I said, I'm so much more interested in the consequences of war, and this is a world that's heavily based on Plato's Republic, concepts of like censorship, propaganda, what it means for a government to have a propaganda office. The fact that all of that is addressed, and this is still an extremely high action book with huge stakes, yes, like a million times yes. I loved reading this so much. I haven't sat down and read a book in a day in I guess it would have been like last year during readathons maybe, but I haven't finished a book since January. And before that, I hadn't finished a book since October. And I finished this in one go. So, having said that, holy shit, it's time for Flamefall. I don't know if I want to read the description or if I just want to jump into this. Oh, this is so difficult. Okay, I'll read the first paragraph and see how I'm feeling. Okay. I decided to read the whole description. Ooh, oh, ooh. One of my favorite war books ever, like books that deal with the consequences of war, is the Chaos Walking trilogy by Patrick Ness. And one of my favorite things about the Chaos Walking trilogy is that since that series is about the hopelessness of war and what it means for like everyone else in war, not just the one person who makes the decision. And one of my favorite ways that that series does that is that in every conflict you are going to be reading narration from both sides. So you are going to have to understand that both sides of the conflict are made up of people with full lives. You have to deal with the fact that you can't just imagine the enemy as this nebulous enemy. You have to put faces and names to those lives. And I think that it makes the impact of the battle scenes more intense. I think it makes the emotions more intense. And I think it says a lot more about war and what it does to people. And I think that is an element that's going to be incorporated into this, which I'm very eager to read about, because, like, this is a series where the previous ruling class were, you know, fucking horrible fascists. And so I'm not interested in like, redeeming them, but this is clearly a series about the next generation and what it means for them to be carrying on the mantle of war that they didn't start, and what it means for children who grew up without parents to be fighting the war that their parents started. And so I'm very interested in exploring more from, like, an enemy in book 2. I'm very interested in putting a name and a face to that enemy as someone we know more. And that's gonna be worked into Flamefall. It's 3:30 in the morning. Let's see how far we can get through this book, shall we? Hello. Good afternoon, even. I fell asleep last night. I think we all knew that would happen. In our hearts, I think we all knew that would happen. My bed is currently covered in stuff because I just did a telehealth appointment with my therapist. So that took up my afternoon. Because personally, prior to a therapy appointment, I like to set aside some time where I can sit and I can think about the time that's passed since I last saw my therapist and really write down, like, the stuff I want to talk about, look over journal entries over the past couple of weeks, and really, you know, figure out how to talk about that. So, like, that's a whole part of my process, which means I didn't read this morning at all. I just kind of woke up and had breakfast and got ready for that. I did start reading Flamefall last night. I made it 60 pages in before I collapsed into sleep. Okay. So one of the things that I wasn't as sure about with Fireborn, like, I really liked Fireborn, but, like, if I had to pick out something that I wish there would have been more of, it would have been defining the personalities of the dragons a bit more, making the dragons characters more centrally. Just because I like dragon books. I like getting to know dragons. I think it's a fun element. That wasn't central to the story of Fireborn, though, so it's fine. Yes, hello, Flamefall. You heard that I wanted more dragon stuff? Perfect. So I'm really enjoying that. We've got a new character who I'm curious about. I'm curious where his storyline is gonna go, but I like him. He's a character called Griff. That's not a spoiler of any kind. It's just the character's name. So Griff is our newest main character in this book, and it's adding some interesting new things. This book is introducing new parts of the world, new world-building stuff, new characters, new elements to conflict, further elements of a possible war. Like, there's a lot happening in this, even in 60 pages. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to say is I think that this book is a little darker than Fireborn was. I noticed that in Fireborn, with some of the particularly, like, gory or upsetting stuff, it wasn't explicitly described. It would just, like, cover it in a quick line of dialogue or a summary of dialogue, you know? And I think Flamefall has been getting into some of the darker stuff a little bit more. Not that Fireborn wasn't dark. It it dealt with abused, traumatized kids who watched their parents and entire families be murdered. That's who the main characters of this are. And so obviously there's going to be some darkness, but we're definitely getting into more of the intensity, questioning loyalties, questioning decisions. What about this conflict going forward? Like, we're getting into more of those questions in Flamefall. Yeah. Also, yes, I am wearing these overalls again. I here's the thing. If you ever see me in a video and I'm not wearing overalls, assume that I've changed out of overalls to film that video. Like, it's just that I don't want you all to know that it's all I wear. I mean, now you know, but you know, I don't need to show it off. I just put on a different shirt and overalls every day. Because this is the most comfortable outfit known to man. Known to anyone. How about that? The most comfortable outfit known to anyone. I am planning on getting several more pairs of oversized overalls so that I never have to wear really tight pants that cinch around my waist ever again. I want my waist to be free in this nicely shaped... Yeah, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna read. Wait, hold everything. I think there are gay people in this book. Someone gay was mentioned in Fireborn. It was a random side character. She totally was into Annie, and Annie was like, that's okay. I'm not really into it. Which was fine. But, I think this book has gays. Well, I think this book has a gay and a bi. Possibly. Possibly. So, yesterday, I had a kitty buddy while I was reading. Leia was sitting with me all day. I have more than one now. Look. Kitty number 1. Sleeping by the window. And... kitty number 2. Hi, lady. Yeah. I was so hoping that this book was going to get more into, like, the corrupting nature of power and what it means for one regime to take over from another. Acknowledging that regimes that have kind of rules that they have, you might just be exchanging one bad situation for another bad situation. I was hoping that that was going to be, like, gotten into more in this book, and it is. And it's going really well so far. I think it's added a new level to the main characters that's really fabulous. Because, like, there's still so much tension and longing and, like, can we do this? Can we, you know, lead? Can we fight? What are we gonna do? And all of that questioning has made the main characters better. It's made the side characters better because there's greater complexity now. They're dealing with, like, okay, what next? And what next is one of my favorite things to look at. Like, okay, now what? What happens when you accomplish this thing? Or what happens, you know, in the case of the first book in this series, what happens when one ruling class takes over by slaughtering the previous ruling class? What does that mean, you know? Ugh, I love it. I love it. I love political fantasy. It's my fave. I vibe with political fantasy, and I vibe with, like, character exploration. And it's like, I love that these characters are still about supporting each other, but even more about calling each other out and recognizing hypocrisy and making new plans. I'm so curious to see where we're going, and I'm feeling pretty damn strong about the whole this book has gays situation. I've been I've been paying attention. I think this book has gays. I really do. And this headphone was inside my overalls. So I'll keep you updated on the gay situation. I won't, like, give it spoilers, obviously, but I will let you, like, I'll let you know, if one of the main characters of this is queer, for sure. And if the male-male romance that I see happening in the future is legit happening, or if that's just, like, queer goggles, you know? Okay. I'm on page 150. Still a ways to go. We'll see what happens now. I'm here to confirm. One gay. Confirmed by someone else other than the queer character himself, but that's one. Not the one that I'm waiting for. But that's a significant side character who I can pretty safely say is queer. Now the wait really begins. You're not even in frame yet, is the thing.
Okay.
Bye, Cora.
Come in, let's go. She was so concerned.
So, as you saw, I got upset. It was so emotional. Will that work? Okay. I had leftovers from my birthday dinner. And Brian ordered Taco Bell. And so he brought me some cinnamon twists. This book definitely hits harder than Fireborn. Oh my god. Like, all of the stuff in Fireborn is... Not all. Most of the stuff in Fireborn is like backstory stuff. And going over stuff that happened in the past. And then the current day stuff is upsetting, but it's not, you know, an atrocity. Which is what these kids were raised in. This book... There's a lot happening. There's a lot going on. And the stakes are higher. It's darker. It's more intense. And made me emotional. It made me emotional. I wasn't ready. I was really surprised that it got me. Like, I had some inkling in my heart of what might happen. But it still kicked my ass when it did happen. And oh my god, like, I was talking, I think, yesterday about how I like characters who were forced to make no-win decisions. Wow, that was... There's gonna be a lot more of that. I'm ready for a lot more no-win decisions, because that's all this book has been, and it's breaking my heart, but... Like I said, I love the consequences of that, and I like characters being pushed to an extreme. I'm ready to read more, even if it's gonna make me more upset. I love, I've been looking back at the footage for this vlog because I started editing some of it, and I can't even emphasize how much footage of Leia I'm going to have to cut. Just know that for every quick clip you've seen of Leia, There's so much more footage because all she does all day long is climb all over me. So I hope you've enjoyed the footage that you have seen of Leia because she all up in my business. Yes. Yes. Oh. Yes. So I read a little further and I have some news. It's gay. Fuck yeah. I have to tell you something absurd, like good, but absurd that happened in regards to the gays. So, there's a central thing in this series. It's called the Aurelian Cycle, and it is sort of the, like, in-universe version of the Aeneid, essentially. It's an old poem. It's translated, and they all still study it, and it's like, they quote it all the time. And there is a line in here that is clearly deeply inspired by stuff about Achilles and Patroclus. So I'm not gonna read it, but it's basically, there's a bit in Homer, in the Iliad, where Achilles a request is made that Achilles and Patroclus be together in death. Buried together, cremated together, whatever it be, mingling ashes, so that you can't differentiate the two of them. That's essentially the line, and it's been translated differently, and then it's also been used, like a different version of it is used in The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So there are a bunch of different versions. Hi, sweet thing. But there was a version of that in here, and I was like, you're really gonna go pulling Achilles and Patroclus on me with this male-male romance? I'm feeling a lot of things about it. I felt it enough that I put the quote from The Song of Achilles in my copy, and oh my god, these pages are getting so written all over at this point. This book continues to do an incredible job of breaking down different types of power, and the fact that if people really, really want power, maybe you need to look a little further into why they want that power. The biggest thing right now is I think a lot of things would be easier if some characters just talked to each other. But I'm not even upset about it in like a, oh, I don't like miscommunication way, because I think that the way everyone is kind of refusing to talk to each other right now is the most reflective of their age that I've seen thus far. Like, these kids are kids. They're 16 and 17 years old. And despite the fact that they've had to grow up very quickly because they're fighting in a war, whenever there are moments that are like a breakdown in communication or people don't exactly do the right thing, they're children. They're children. I turned 26 on Sunday. I'm a full decade older than Annie. The way I handle things emotionally is very different from the way that I handle things emotionally at 16. So while I have been reading this book and I'm like, just talk to each other, it's gonna be okay. At the same time, it hasn't been in a annoyed, it's taking me out of the book way. It's been in a, oh, I know, kids. I know it's really hard to talk about this. I know that this is going to possibly change things irreparably for you and your friend, but the way to fix this is going to have to be talking to each other, and it's just so heartbreaking to see the ways that these kids are still kids. Because they're fighting in a war, and not everyone is gonna make it out, and I think it's important to have those kinds of reminders if you're gonna have a story about war, and a war being fought by the young. So yeah, I have like 100 pages left. I'm ready for this to ruin me. And I will be back in a little bit to give you my final review, my final thoughts. You know, it has been a much shorter day today than it was yesterday, based on the fact that I haven't put my hair up into my I'm stressed and I can't keep my bangs out of my hair, like out of my face anymore, top ponytail. Very important part of the day is winding down process. I'm not used to having hair. Haven't had hair this long since high school. So I did it. But Flamefall, I read it. Oh my god. God, okay, I can't. I am so interested to find out how this series is going to end. And I don't have the third book yet. I don't even know if it has a title yet, but tough decisions. I think the biggest theme of this book was making the hardest decisions. How perfect is it that that was like my big thing going into it, was that I wanted this to ask the hard questions and make characters make those no-win choices. And I think even more than no-win choices, this book is about choices that make characters constantly question their moral code. Like whatever they thought was black and white, they are going to be forced to understand has shades of gray. Every character is going to be forced to have that reckoning, and it's a really difficult reckoning. It's so hard to come to terms with the fact that maybe a situation isn't just good and bad, that there are all of these things in the middle, and that maybe no choice is the best choice, and there are all of these different shades of bad choices. So what do you do then? And like on top of that, tension was even higher. It was so well delivered in this. It ramped up the angst between the characters, and it ramped up, like, I wasn't sure how we were going to keep getting this tension between Annie and Lee. You know, like I said, in Fireborn, there is already a pretty deep understanding of the differences between them. And so the fact that those differences are pushed so intensely in this book, to the point that, I mean, everyone is making moves that at some point in this book I was questioning. Okay, with the exception of like one character, but she is the most lovely side character, and I have no questions for her, which makes me worried, because now I'm worried that Rosaria is going to make me question her in the third book. I don't want that. I kind of like that there was someone who didn't necessarily have to make the world's most difficult, terrible choice all the time. Ugh, I don't know if I can say, like, which of these I enjoyed more yet. Mostly because I read them in such quick succession. I think I'm gonna need a couple of days to unwind and think more about, like, the differences between the series, but I love how much Fireborn delivered on all this intro stuff, all of this political background that was built with all these characters, and Flamefall just made every single one of those elements more complicated, and that's exactly what a political fantasy needs. And it was more complicated, but in a way I could totally follow. It's been a while since I've gotten into a series like this, since I've really gotten to embrace big fantasy battle sequences and angsty YA romance in a fantasy setting, especially between straight people, let's be honest. So like the fact that that romance worked so well, and then Flamefall had to go and be like, oh, by the way, there are gays now. Just kick my ass. I feel like I have to wrap up now. I feel like this is where I'm gonna stop talking, because I have been talking about these books for, I mean, for you, probably like an hour. For me, it's been, you know, a full 2-day period of talking about these and reading these and editing. And so I'm gonna let these sit, rest in my brain, and keep thinking about what I want to talk about as like an overall, and you can hear more about them in my wrap up. All I know is that I had so much fun reading these. It was so much fun to care about reading and to care about a book and not want to look away from it, because it's been a minute since that's happened, and it was really exciting to get into that. I want to say thank you again so much to Penguin Teen for sponsoring this vlog. Be sure to check out Fireborn and Flamefall. They're both available now. There's going to be a link in the description where you can check out more information on the books. Definitely follow that link. It would mean the world to me if you did. This was such an exciting opportunity, and I'm really hoping to be able to push myself more this year and to continue making reading vlogs. So thanks, Penguin Teen. Thank you, Rosaria Munda. Okay, I'm gonna sit and try to think about what I think is gonna happen in this final book, because I just don't know. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have read Fireborn, please let me know your thoughts about it down in the comments below. Spoiler free if you can. If you have to leave spoilers, try to leave a warning so we can all tread with caution. Also in the comments, tell me about your favorite dragon stuff. I would love to hear if dragons are your favorite mythical creature. What are some of your favorite dragon things? Please tell me about them. Other than that, I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!